Well, hi, everybody. Welcome into UnAnchoredBoston.com with Bob Lobel. I'm Mike Lynch. We're thrilled today to have the voice of the Boston Red Sox with us. We'll get to him in 1 second. But first, we'll have to remind you that we are brought to you by Cold Springs RV, your destination for all things camping. And where? We're in New Hampshire, of course. The great George Gray, big wheel we call him, at George Gray's Lexington Toyota, 419 Mass Ave in Lexington. All right, we are thrilled to have... he might be thrilled to be sitting here with Lynch and Lobel, but we are thrilled to have Dave O'Brien, Obi as they call him, and Bob Lobel always takes care of the formal introduction, so Obi, take it away.
Well, something about the South Shore. I mean, Dave was born in Quincy, Newmeyer was born in Weymouth, and McDonough. All these guys went to Syracuse and went on to have great broadcasting careers. And the guy we're talking to, OB, Dave O'Brien, it's amazing that people think he's been the Red Sox announcer and that's all he's done all his life. But let me tell you, far from it. I mean, the stuff that this guy has done throughout his career has been remarkable. From, working with, I didn't realize he worked with the Braves and then the Cubs and then the Mets and all these, and then ESPN and Major League Baseball. Some of the great things I found, Dave, were the great calls that you made at great moments. I think sportscasters, don't you agree, Lynch?
Yeah.
Sportscasters live for the time when they have great moments to talk about, and at that moment is really when the rubber meets the road, when you really prove yourself. But I was just more fascinated. I know we can go down the whole career, Dave, and talk about the ACC and your college basketball in Miami and Georgia and all the things that you've done in college basketball and college football. And I won't bring up the FIFA World Cup, but that's up to you if you want to talk about that. But I mean, you actually did soccer, Lynch. Can you imagine doing soccer?
I tried anyway. I tried.
No, you did try. You were there for the right reasons, to explain the game to those who were uninitiated. But that's all right. I got it. But that's all right. But the career moments, the Barry Bonds home runs, the epic, the Mark McGwire home run. These were things you were just in that place at that time for those moments. I thought that was the most fascinating. But I guess you'd have to say, even Mississippi State beating UConn after 111 straight games.
Mm-hmm.
Which of those moments really was the most exciting for you?
The single. Well, let me just start by saying what a thrill this is for me.
I know what you're going to say, and I agree with you. It's got to be.
I know I'm going to bore you for 30 seconds, but please allow me to. You two guys, I learned how to do what I do, and in the Boston market by watching both of you guys all through my early years, my formative years, when I was trying to figure out, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to be a sports announcer and cover sports? I never thought it would happen in Boston, my hometown. That was just a gift and continues to be a blessing. But watching both of you guys do it, and the honesty, the integrity, the grit you guys covered it with, that's how I wanted to do the job if I ever got a chance to be in the broadcast booth. So thank you to you both. This is the chance I get right now to say thank you to both of you guys for being what you were to a young Dave O'Brien, growing up in Quincy, growing up in Marshfield, watching you guys every night. I would turn on the evening news and see you both at Fenway Park and thought, what a gig you guys have. You're talking about Freddie Lynn and Jim Rice. You're talking about whether the Red Sox are good or they stink. This is how I'm going to figure it out right here. And thank you for being who you were for me as a young Davey O'Brien. So I just want to get that out, first of all.
Well, thank you. We're done with our podcast now. Thank you very much for using up our time. It's been really interesting, Dave. Thank you very much.
But to your question, Bob, I think the call that I was so lucky enough to be able to deliver was, in the end, the one that I think I'll always remember first and foremost was David Ortiz hitting a grand slam in Game 2 of the ALCS in 13 against the Tigers. And it was one of the few times in my career I had an out-of-body experience. I actually levitated with that, and still thinking about it, the hairs on the back of my neck, and thinking about that moment and what he did, and how fortunate. I've never heard Fenway Park quite like that in that moment. It only tied the game, but if they had lost that game, the Red Sox don't get a whiff of the World Series.
That's right. Let's set it up. It's like they're down 5-1.
And he didn't bloop a single to left. He hit a rocket over Torrey Hunter and tied the damn game. So I look back on that, and everything for me kind of begins with that and falls in line afterwards that I've been lucky enough to do.
It was like that Ortiz. That thing. I mean,
Yeah.
it had to be right off the cuff. I mean, people think, well, you script these endings when they pop, but you couldn't have possibly even thought about scripting that. It had to be totally emotional.
God no, and so much of it was emotional, and it's the difference between, calling your team your local team and calling a home run, as you said. I was there when Barry Bonds broke Hank Aaron's home run record. I had to call on ESPN. A completely different tone and tenor and delivery, and the circumstances were wildly different, of course. But when you get wrapped up in a moment like the Ortiz home run, it just separates it in your mind. I think for at least for me it does. I don't know about anybody else, but for me it'll be the top thing I ever did. I think.
I'm really happy to hear that. That's great, Lynchy.
I was out in the street. We have to, no matter what's going on, we have to go out and do the 11 o'clock news. So I'm staying on the first base line. I don't even know what the name of that street is now, but I'm out there and I hear this roar in the crowd.
Commonwealth Avenue, wasn't it? That's where you were. You were on Commonwealth Avenue, coming out of
I
the
wasn't
bar.
that far away.
Oh.
I yell up to everybody. I said, "What the heck just happened?" They said, "Ortiz just hit a grand slam. Ortiz hit a grand slam." And the two people who were watching, not watching the game, watching me and Lobel that night. That's how I found out about it. And that happens a lot, as you know, in this business. Local news, you're outside the park at 6:20 or 11:25, you never. Do you ever sit around your room and say, okay, if this were to present itself someday down the road, this is what I might say? Or is it instinctively off the top of your head?
It's a great question, and as Bob said, that call for me came out of just oh my God, David Ortiz. Dave just repeated it 3 times, went on from there. But there have been moments when the Red Sox clinched that World Series. I knew I wanted to say something about Boston Strong in the final call. And when the game ended on a strikeout against the Cardinals at Fenway, I wanted to incorporate that because that year was the year of the marathon bombing. Boston Strong was everywhere. Everyone was wearing the T-shirt or a hat. It was the lexicon of the day, and I wanted to make sure that was in there for all time, kind of for posterity's sake, to remind everybody what happened that year. If you did happen to listen to that call, and what that baseball team meant to the city of Boston and indeed all of New England, because that was such an incredible and unique year. And I thought the Red Sox did a great job of wrapping their arms around Boston and saying, it's going to be okay. Baseball has a way of doing that because it's every single day. And the Red Sox, of course, are part of everybody's summer. And so I wanted to make sure that was in that call. It was one of the few times I remember thinking, I'm not going to write it down, but I want to have it at that moment when the Sox clinch the World Championship. Yeah.
It was interesting that you bring that up because it was 2013 and the bombing year. It was Ortiz that started the season off basically by saying, "This is our effing city," in Fenway Park against Kansas City that day. A game in which Daniel Nava came up with a big home run to win the game.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the way that Ortiz kind of started it and then punctuated it at the end with that grand slam home run. So you're right, that was an amazing season.
It was an incredible season. I work a lot with Will Middlebrooks, as you guys know, on TV, and he was the third baseman for that team. And some of his memories of those guys and Johnny Gomes in the clubhouse, basically telling John Farrell at the beginning of the season, just stay out of the way. We're going to win this thing. And I know players say stuff like that. You guys have quoted players saying stuff like that. It doesn't come to fruition with a World Series championship, but that's the way those guys thought very early on. And it's only kind of after the fact you realize some of that stuff. And when David took that microphone that day, I remember how the scary feeling in the air. It was so creepy, and it was they had gone after those guys and that incredible chase through Watertown and everything. And then when David got up there and basically said it's okay to come back and enjoy your lives again, it was so profound. And I remember he said what he said, and the Kansas City Royals announcers came running in our room, into our booth, and said, "Is he allowed to say that? Can he drop an F-bomb and we were like, apparently he can, because he's David Ortiz." It was amazing.
Yeah, it was. Well, things have changed a bit. There's no question about that.
Right. Yeah. Right.
We've been
Not in the booth, I don't think, but for
no, but
players.
this is very fortuitous that we have a chance to have you on, David, because well, Rafael Devers has made a lot of headlines in the last. I don't know if it's a little early in the podcast to get into this, but I don't think it's too early to get into it. We can always go back and reminisce about all the years that we've had, good and bad. But what do you think, Lynchy, about the whole Devers situation and the way it's come down on either side? Because there's people that think good riddance. I don't want this guy around. He wouldn't play, and now he goes to San Francisco and says, "I'll play anywhere you want." I mean, he really has put himself in harm's way in a lot of ways. But on the other hand, the Red Sox, they haven't exactly handled it with their own aplomb, and crisis management team hasn't really come through for them either. So both sides have really been at fault or not at fault. Either way, if you're at fault, you can be not at fault. But
this guy Dave is the guest. I'm not the guest, so you don't be asking me the question, Bob. You may have forgot that Obi's
No,
the guest.
but honestly, I would really love to hear both of your opinions, given who you guys are on this. It's not the first time that the Red Sox have had a disgruntled player get traded away, and I'm sure I was sitting in my living room in Marshfield watching you guys tell me, in 1981 that Freddie Lynn had been traded, who was my favorite player at that time, and it was like the first time I remember thinking, this is allowed to happen? Like, I love Freddie Lynn. All my friends love Freddie Lynn. We all imitate Fred Lynn's batting stance, and we run into walls on purpose when we can because of Fred Lynn. And yet he's gone, and like in the wind. And Wayne Gretzky, same thing. Several years later, players get traded. But I understood that for the first time then. But I think the why and the how, I would love to see how you guys react to that, because I have so many young parents, and this, believe it or not, does happen. I get texts and letters and emails from people, as you guys do, saying, "Hey, I need to teach my kid that they are one of 15, or as Duran said the other day, one of 26 guys. And if they ask you to go play center field, if they ask you to play first base, you do that. If they're paying you $30 million a year in particular," which was David Ortiz's point. But start with you, Lynch. Yeah, I'd love to hear what your opinion is about this whole thing.
Well, I think don't let the door hit you on the way out. It's my first reaction. I take a look at Mookie Betts. Now, how many positions has he played so far for the Dodgers?
3 or 4, yeah.
Yeah, he whatever it makes. And then you look at that 2018 team and Chris Sale coming out of the bullpen. Tim Wakefield never said no when somebody said, "Put your
how about
spike."
Pedro coming out of the bullpen in Cleveland?
Yeah, yeah, it goes on and on and on. But I think of Nomar when they traded him in 2004. He was becoming a bad influence on the clubhouse. You're with this team, and I know it's a tough position for you to be in, Dave, but you probably saw this percolating long before any of us saw it percolating, because you're close to the team. You travel with them. You're with them every single day.
Yep. Did and on both counts did see something coming to a head. I thought it was going to be at the end of the season, and I thought the Red Sox, having just swept the Yankees, having won 6 straight games, about to go west for a critical trip, I didn't think in a million years it would happen then. And I thought there was a possibility, if the Red Sox really dovetailed and they fell out of any contention at all, maybe by the All-Star break or by the trade deadline at the end of July. But honestly, I didn't think it would happen when it happened. But having said that, I walked into the clubhouse in Seattle the day after the trade, and the feeling was immediately, let's get going. He's gone. That's it. There wasn't any hand wringing. There weren't guys crying in their lockers. There were a couple of players he was very close to. I'd say Brian Bayo and Cedon Rafael in particular, who idolized Raffy. They really looked up to Raffy Devers. But I think the vast majority of the clubhouse probably looked at it like that was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen. It's occurred. Let's go. Let's go try and get into postseason play. And that's really the feeling that I got in there. And that tells you a lot, that the expectation was among that unit, it was just a matter of time because he had refused to play first base or third base when they approached him to do that after Bregman was hurt.
I just can't comprehend a player refusing to play. That's to me is, it's almost incomprehensible that would happen. Yes, I'll tell you one thing. Seeing Yastrzemski, the kid, his grandson, batting from the left side, brought back so many memories this
Yeah.
past weekend. It just was magical, actually.
Yeah.
It was really magical to see Yastrzemski hitting in from the left side.
And by the way, a guy who's beloved by their team. I didn't realize the extent of it because we don't play the Giants very much, but his clubhouse adores him.
Really?
Like every corner of that clubhouse, the guys who speak English as a second language and guys that he has played with and against in at Vanderbilt and on up, they adore this guy, and he's one of those guys who brings younger players to lunch and puts an arm around his shoulder and that kind of, which is what Bregman has brought to the Red Sox. Unfortunately, he's been hurt for since May 24. So the club has really been missing that. But that's what Yaz does, the young Yaz, for the Giants. They love the guy, and he's got a swing made for that ballpark. Perfect.
Well, he just got that swing Yaz. He looks like the old Yaz.
He does. And I imagine, Carl watches a lot of the games. I know he really follows the Red Sox quite closely. So he must have been beaming after the bomb he hit the other day, right on top of that shelf that skipped into McCovey Cove. Yeah.
Speaking of grandsons, and you probably know this, Dave, but I got a text message when Devers hit his first home run as a member of the Giants. The guy that caught the ball in left field was Don Gillis's grandson.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Really?
I am not kidding you. He's Don Gillis's grandson, and if I can find it here.
What are the chances? Yeah.
What are the odds? His name was.
Why don't we get sportscasters like that?
I was just thinking, this is exactly the kind of thing I used to see you guys talk about. It would be the tagline as you threw it back. It'd be, oh, and by the way, I love that.
Yeah,
I had that the other day.
And that's what we always did, because that was the only way you can make your sportscast distinctive from your competitor. Everyone's got the highlights. Everyone's okay. Is David's first home run? Look at him, how happy he is, and blah 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 blah. But to find something like that, so his uncle, I think, sent me. I can't find the text message now, but it was. I think his name was Atwood or something like that. I'll find it before we go. But there's that kind of, imagine that.
That's really cool. That's really cool.
If you see it, the guy's got a Red Sox hat on and he's holding his T-shirt like this, Boston. And it was Don. What are the chances? Don Gillis' grandson.
That is. It's a big in the Bay in San Francisco, all places. But hey, getting back to Raffy for just a second. The one point I want to make is, we're in Anaheim, and I have missed putting his name in the lineup for a week.
Yeah, I heard you mention that on the air.
He's a terrific. Bob and I have talked about it. He is a magical hitter. He's a savant with the bat. Remember how he started the season? 0 for 21, 15 strikeouts. I thought he was about to have the worst season of his career. And a month later, people were talking about him going to the All-Star game, and he had so turned things around. But he's so capable of doing that. I miss the guy tremendously. And he started out in the organization when he was 16 years old. So, you will have people in this organization that are like, we cultivated this guy, and we brought him through and helped make him a star. He was 98.9% responsible for it, but they have skin in the game on it. I'm talking about trainers, coaches, scouts, everybody else. So, they believed in Raffy Devers, and you don't sign a guy for that kind of contract if you don't. These things go sour. They go south. We've reported on them, all three of us, for many, many years. It's a fact of life. I wish it hadn't happened, because I'd love to have his name in the lineup tonight against the Angels.
David, as Mike just brought up, what kind of a tightrope do you have to walk? Because this is a ownership versus player controversy, basically, for lack of a better word. And you have to be the guy to talk about what everybody's watching while everybody's thinking something else.
Right.
So you have to really walk this. as Mike said, this has got to be a difficult thing. I know you can only talk about what you see on the field, but there's got to be this sense inside of you that, geez, whatever I say, I'm alienating one side or the other.
Sure, sure. Well, I certainly have my opinions, and I'd like to think that we've all made our opinions known to cover the Red Sox at this, from the booth position, that we adore the guy. We have loved watching him play, and he's been a spectacular player for the Red Sox, certainly a spectacular hitter. So that's already established. I mean, we've got great affection for him. But the way it ended, I've got a lot of information that doesn't necessarily belong on the air because I feel like, Bob, my job is to cover the game, and what affects the game is what I have to talk about. That's what I think people, when they tune in the Red Sox, they want the ball game. They want what happens between the white lines. So to a large degree, that's what I'm going to concentrate on. It doesn't mean I don't have opinions about what is said. So when Big Papi talks about being blown off by Raffy and not answering, and Alex Cora, his own manager, can't get in touch with him. I mean, I think that stuff is worthy of comment if somebody asks me about it in a pregame show or a program like this. As far as the game is concerned, my job is to cover the game and to bring that to people. That's what and if I can stick there in that lane, I think everything is going to be fine in terms of our broadcast for Red Sox fans.
Right, especially balls and strikes and hits and runs and errors.
Oh, but
Yeah,
no,
definitely.
even that Dave and I were talking before you finally came on, Bob. We finally found him. Oh. Shocking he was late. But I think it was the first inning last night, and you said this is painful to watch. And there was a time when another regime owned this club that you might have been called on the carpet for making a comment like that.
Yep.
And but you have that freedom and that flexibility with this ownership. Has anybody ever spoken to you?
I do. I've never had anyone walk through the door of my booth, Mike, or call me or text me and say, "Hey, don't do that. We don't need that." If anybody had ever done that with me at the very early days I was doing the Red Sox, which is almost 20 years ago, I would have found another job.
Yeah.
I grew up here, and again, growing up watching you guys, I felt like reality and honesty was something I had to bring to the microphone because if I spend, 2 or 3 months snowing everybody that this is a great baseball team or that's a great baseball team, and they're not, no one's ever going to believe me when they are good. And that's what I felt was important. That when the Red Sox had a great ball club, like in 18, all right, everybody can see that. But if they were going through a rough patch, reminding everybody this is a spectacular team. This team's got a chance to win the whole thing. That's important that people believe you. And we're the only broadcast on television of the Red Sox basically every single night. So I think we have a job to do there, and that is to bring what's actually happening. And I feel like over the years, if anything, I've felt freer to say what I needed to say, particularly because this club has struggled so badly at times since 2018. There have been some really bad clubs. This team is barely over 500, and I mean barely, since 2018. That shouldn't happen with the Boston Red Sox. So I got to be the first one to tell you that they butchered that play at third, or there's no way that guy should make his next start, in my opinion. My informed opinion, 35 years of calling baseball, has to count for something there, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I agree. Even when the double play last night, I mean, I don't think I had the volume on for it, but I'm sure you were just flabbergasted, right?
I was flabbergasted that Jaron Duran decided to run on an infield grounder to short from second to third, number one. And Barry Toro took off about a half hour late for second base, although there was an obstruction, I think, that should have been called on the play. That was kind of interesting. That's where Cora got run.
Right.
But yeah, absolutely. And I encourage the guys that I work with, the analysts, Lou Merloni and Will and Kevin Millar and some other guys, to try and do that as well. Okay, tell me the why, but also, make sure you do it with as much honesty as you can possibly bring. And fortunately, they're all on too, because no one's ever told those guys don't do that. It's only the truth at the end of the day. And it's important in our business, I think.
I think what must really be difficult is the temptations not to use the analytics in the broadcast. I mean, there's so much, bat speed, exit speed, whatever, whatever,
launch
huh?
speed,
Launch,
launch.
yeah,
Don't
launch
forget that.
angle, launch speed. I mean, seriously, it's one thing to know how far a home run is the minute it's hit,
Right.
which is a pretty unique ability. But you know what I'm saying is the depth. Sometimes the depth is overwhelming. I mean,
It,
for a
it
fan.
can be. There's so much of it available, and the temptation is to use all of it.
Of course it is. I get that absolutely.
But I came up with, I still value, it may sound really quaint, but I still value RBIs. The theory out there now that a run batted in is luck, it's good fortune, I find laughable. I still put weight into a man's batting average. So I get batting average. A lot of announcers don't anymore, but I choose to because every hitter I've ever talked to for my entire life, and you guys too, looks at batting average as an indicator that you are or are not a good hitter.
Yes.
You know that, and that's why I use it. I think people laugh at it at times, and I get that. There's a whole cadre of analytics. But I was just reading an article about Xander Bogaerts, who I adored, but was all for Xander leaving the Red Sox. I thought it was the right move. That contract was not going to be sustainable, and his analytics people are coming to him, telling him, "You've just been unlucky. You've hit the ball, the what they call expectation. You've hit the ball where a 300 hitter would hit. You're just getting unlucky. You're hitting the ball really hard. You're hitting it in the wrong spot, and that makes him feel better. But as a fan of the Padres, I don't feel better about that. Oddly enough, I mean, I want him to hit 300. I want him to hit 25 home runs. He's not doing that. He's been a major disappointment for the Padres, unfortunately. An adorable guy. He was great for the Red Sox. But, those analytics, some of the new age analytics, I would never use. I think some of them are for the player and the club and in the clubhouse, but they're not for the broadcast booth. Some of them, anyway.
Let me ask you this. Did the Red Sox sign the wrong guy of that trio? First of all, there was Betts. He left. Then there was a big uproar. I mean, then Bogarts, they don't sign him. They don't make a deal for him. And now the city's going crazy. So the outside view is that we better do something, and let's sign Rafi Devers right now. So I think they signed the wrong guy of the three guys, and then it was sort of a desperation panic move. And now they got none of the three guys and very little to show for it.
Yeah. And we all looked at Mookie at the time and since then as a generational player.
Yeah.
And he was. I mean, I can't tell you how many times the year after he was traded, I would look down the right field line on a foul ball near the stands and think, well, that's going to be caught. That's an out. Our pitcher just and it fell in because no one else could make that play. Mookie made that play every single game, and it was moments like that or a gap shot that Mookie races over and instead of it getting caught, it's bouncing against the bullpen and 3-run score. Let alone what he did with the bat and everything else. So that's one that the organization made a huge mistake there. There's no doubt about it. They don't want to relive it. They don't want to keep going back to it, but everything needed to be done to sign Mookie Betts. It did not happen, and it became what Babe Ruth was to the Red Sox. And I don't. It's hard to get around that. I would have loved to have put that guy's name in the lineup for the next 10 years and just forgotten about it because I think that would have translated into a couple of more World Series. Absolutely.
I had heard that Mookie Betts was alienated himself by the Red Sox in his approach in arbitration. That the Red Sox did not do him right in their arbitration hearings with Mookie Betts. But that's beside the point. That's water over the dam. Whatever it is. I don't think Mookie Betts was coming back here, no matter what the Red Sox did. But
Yeah.
that's beside the point.
It's a fair point. And there are people within the organization, many of them actually, that he came up with. And I'm not talking about players. I'm talking about executives who
Right.
were convinced that Mookie wanted to be here and that he wanted to end his career with the Red Sox. But I don't know if that changed at the end. I do know this: L.A. is a great spot for him. He's a different guy out there
Yeah.
than he was with the Red Sox. In Boston, you've got to be, and this was going to have to be the case with Raffy. You've got to be the star that the contract says you are, but you don't have to be that way in Los Angeles.
Urology Paul Church or Urology Paul Church.
Sorry.
Elaine, Hollywood, and all the superstars in sports out there, he's very comfortable where he is, and he's become a different guy. You know, he's doing podcasts and he's involved in all sorts of things outside of baseball now that I don't think would have happened in Boston. So at the end of the day, it was a great move for him personally, I think.
Is this, Dave? Do you feel like now that this is a good AAA team, but not a major league team? It may be an unfair question asking you, putting you in a position to answer that question, but do you get that feeling?
Yeah, Mike, I don't look at it that way. I think that, they recently won 6 in a row. They took 5 out of 6 from a very good Yankee team. I think what they are
Sorry.
is very, very inconsistent and really up and down in all phases of the game. And there are times the bullpen has been lately really exceptional. And this rotation has too, but the Red Sox haven't scored. This was even with Raffy Devers. So what they've been is kind of tantalizing. Like, are they good enough to be a postseason team? And then they'll win a few games. And now, like the last 2 nights, Sunday afternoon and last night, they'll drop games that were just ugly or they should have won. And they've done that a lot this year. I think there are a lot of good players on this team. I think Garrett Crochet going tonight is absolutely one of the top 3 or 4 arms in all of baseball. And I think the kids are going to flourish eventually. Maybe they're not right now, but Roman Anthony and Marcelo Meyer. You watch Marcelo Meyer play third base, you'd swear he'd play there for 8 years in the majors. So there's plenty of talent to, I think, be a 500 ball club. And the next thing the Red Sox do to replace Devers with that money, that has to be the statement the Red Sox make about being super aggressive. And I know they're balked at times doing that, and that's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. But I think that has to be the next thing that's done. Do you go out and get a couple of sluggers and another pitcher? What do you do to become, as we know, the Boston Red Sox again? And this team is certainly short of that. They're right at 500. Tonight is the midway point of the season, exactly midway point of the season. And by this point of the year, you pretty much know who you are. Do they change that at the trade deadline very dramatically because they've got financial flexibility? They have to, in my opinion. I think they want to. I think the Red Sox really do want to do that. Whether or not your deal matches up with someone else's, I mean, I was amazed they got somebody to take every dime of Devers' contract, and that was the tipping point on that more than anything else.
Yeah.
Well, there's the other side of the factor. And before I do this camping commercial, which is the highlight of our show, because you'll end up being the star of this, Dan, or Dave, rather. I'm sorry, my urologist keeps calling me, and that bothers me.
You've got to take a call. You have to.
Right.
As long as you're getting the call, and Obi and Lynch are not getting a call from me.
Right.
That's
exactly
true.
Right.
So anyway, now that number 11 is gone, I suppose Roman Anthony can give Fred Lynch. See, here's this.
Urology Paul Church.
Okay, there's nothing wrong.
Only you, Bob, can have a urologist calling in the middle of like a podcast.
Right. This is classic. Yeah.
Only me, Bob, can't figure out how to shut it off. Okay, so I'm saying Roman Anthony can now move from 48 to 19, which was Fred Lynn's number, to 11. He can have 11 now.
He could have 11 now if he wants it, I guess.
Right, and you can get Fred Lynn's number back.
I was surprised that it was out there as long as it was anyway. So
I'm just saying, I was too. Okay, now I have
by
to
the way, Don Gillis's grandson that caught the ball, his name is Mike Atwood, Atwood, and his brother sent me the information.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. Feel free to use it on the air tonight, Dave, but you don't have to. I'm just saying it's.
Consider it stolen, Lynch. Absolutely. I wish I had it the other day.
My gift to you, Mike Atwood, Atwood.
Yeah.
He's
Writing it
Don
down.
Gillis' grandson. He caught the ball on Sunday afternoon, and His
I
brother,
love it.
Brendan Atwood, sent it to me. So
And
there
his
you
first
go.
name, Mike, you said?
Mike, yep, ATWOOD. Mike.
And
Done.
we used that precious time in the Bob Lobel Mike Lynch podcast.
Well,
No,
I mean, if we're taking calls from your neurologist, so I mean, I guess we could do this.
At least it's not a neurologist; it's only the urologist.
feel free. Feel free to use that. The Lobel has a urologist appointment coming up too.
Well, that's
Well,
going to be.
that's probably been canceled by now, thanks to you guys.
If we have another inning like we did in the first inning last night, this is all making air right off the.
Yes. This won't be tough to watch. This will be fun to watch.
All right, are you a camper at all, Dave? I know you're, from Quincy
Well,
and Marshfield and New Hampshire now.
For purposes of your commercial, Bob, yeah, I love camping. I just can't get it.
This is good. This is good. You have all the right answers. Well, let's hope you do at the end. All right, now's the time to see a fantastic selection of travel trailers, fifth wheels, models. They're like park motels, actually, when you think about it. Pop-ups and motorhomes at Cold Springs RV. Go in, browse for a pressure-free environment, and find the RV of your dreams. At Cold Springs RV, you and your family can shop with ease. You can make this summer a summer to remember with a camper from Cold Springs RV or the pressure-free dealer Cold Springs RV in Ware, New Hampshire. The
Where?
three of us know where Ware is. Ware
I
is
do.
west
Yeah, I
of
know where Ware.
Goffstown, north of Tingsboro, west
Yes,
of Goffstown. Where's Ware? Right there.
right.
Right near where Bill Bambuquet was after Medford, anyway.
Mm.
So anyway, we usually have these two campers. Dave, we were talking about. They have separate campers. It was Jackie and Phil. They had their own separate campers. They met. They kind of fell in love, and so they moved their two campers to one camper, and then they parted. Then the great thing about camping is if you have your own camper, you can leave. It's
Yes.
freedom. It's all about freedom. I know, married 38 years, you don't want to even think about having a camper.
Well, I guess not. No, I mean, that's.
Maybe you would at one point. Maybe she does, but maybe you don't.
Yeah, I'm not speaking for her. Yeah.
No, of course not. Right. We never do. But anyway, the good news is that Phil and Jackie were once gone their separate ways, but now they've come back to Raymond, New Hampshire at the campgrounds in Raymond, New Hampshire. Who lived in Raymond, New Hampshire, Dave?
Carlton Fisk.
Attaboy. Okay, good job. So that was it. That's where the campground is. So
That sounded like, I love that what you've done there, because it sounded like something right out of Paul Harvey. You remember Paul Harvey?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sadly, I do.
And they right, yeah, and they fell in love, and they moved into the same camper. It was beautiful.
It was very good. Thank you. And I'll try to put a little more emotion to it, but I feel under pressure because Lynch says, "Shut up, Bob," because he's got a very important question to ask you, David.
Okay.
All right. So, as you probably figured out by now, we don't pay our guests. So,
We don't pay our host, so don't worry about it, OB.
So, Obi, check this out.
Yeah.
But remember, John Madden had the Madden Cruiser because he didn't like to fly.
Sure.
So, Cold Springs RV is going to build a Lobel Lynchy cruiser, and it's going to be state of the art. And we're going to allow our guests, you included, on this show, to have the use of the Lobel Lynchy cruiser for 1 week.
Wow.
So, New Hampshire to the West Coast. Now, you can't take your wife. You got to take somebody. You have to pick somebody. We'll fly you back from the West Coast, and
Yeah.
probably take us 6 or 7 days to get across country. You're going to pick somebody, past, present, alive, deceased, sports figure, political figure, entertainer, that's going to ride shotgun with Dave O'Brien when you go across the country.
Isn't that a great idea? Love that idea.
Yeah, it is a great idea.
So you got to come up with somebody who is.
So I can pick anybody I want. It can't be my significant other.
Yeah, no offense to her.
Right.
So just somebody. We've had some great.
Love that.
Mike Milbury picked Winston Churchill.
Oh, yeah.
Upton Bell picked Taylor Swift.
Upton's got the right idea. So I didn't realize it could be someone you're not associated with. So that's a whole different realm of possibility. Yeah.
You just think of all the baseball greats that you love to have a conversation with. Historical figures, politicians, you name it.
Politicians, boy. I was thinking Bridget Bardot is what I was.
Well, you know what? Done.
There you go.
But that doesn't mean that's not your final answer. that your final answer? No.
That would have to be certainly my top three. Yes, all time. I'll have to give that some thought, but I'd go Bridget Bardot. Why not? And then that dates me a little bit, but oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah,
Richard
good.
Bardot. That's the first rule. I like that, Lobie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do too. If I'd have only thought of that.
Yeah.
Well, if Middlebury can take Winston Churchill, I guess I can go Bridget Bardot.
You
Or
can go anything you want. You're just going to regret this when you get off the show. I know you're going to say, "Oh my God, I wish I'd have thought of something else."
okay,
This gets posted. You got the answer.
Could have picked any one of us and been safe. Okay.
this is a great benefit of this show. I had no idea. I didn't take this assignment to join you guys thinking something like this would be in it for me. So thank you very much.
Our pleasure.
This is going to be the most entertaining part of this 9-game road trip, by the way.
Yeah.
And this
The way
may
things
be worthwhile.
The way things are going, Lynch, it's exactly right. So, after last night, but let's hope for a better night tonight.
What does that mean? What does a better night mean? What is that?
A win.
Well, yeah, for me,
Yes,
it's a well played game, error free, good execution, good base running, all the things that Alex Cora would sit and say, "This is what I need to see tonight," because I think it is a team capable, and then we've seen it from time to time playing much better baseball. But Lord knows you got to throw strikes. You can't walk the ballpark and then make base running mistakes. Lynchy and I were talking about this as we were waiting for you, Bob, and it was.
keep bringing that up. You just keep bringing it up.
It is what it
You know
is.
what?
He was literally 2 minutes late. That's all it was, but we're giving him the business. So, but we were talking about it, the fact that the Red Sox had no business being in a game in the fifth inning.
Yeah.
And you had a chance to win. They tied it 5-5. And I really thought at that point, hey, they might luck out and steal a win here despite all of this. But it usually doesn't happen that way, as we all know.
Well, I'm a little disappointed in their fundamentals, personally, as a fan. I say fundamentally they're flawed. Base running, and Devers was no prince on the bases either. I mean, I don't think he added a whole lot in the base running. But I'm just saying that their base running, their other fundamentals, they seem to be all correctable, but it's frustrating as a fan. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah. Frustrates the heck out of me, too, because at the end of the day, I feel like I'm a fan. I
You
grew
gotta
up
be, Dave. You gotta be.
and from the time I was 4 years old, I can't remember ever even thinking about rooting for another team. And thank you, Robert O'Brien, my father, for that. But I think you're exactly right. I think fundamentally, where they keep shooting themselves in the foot, and this has been going on now for 2-3 years with the defense leading the league in errors, that just can't happen. The really perturbing thing to me is the Red Sox play such poor defense at home, at Fenway. And in your home ballpark, you should be far better. You know every nook and cranny. You know where every bounce is. You know the surfaces of the monster and the padded wall at the bullpen. You know all that stuff. So, and when you look down the left field line, a high pop up is going to come back. It always does. It starts foul, it comes back. You know that as a left fielder if you play every day at Fenway. So that's been the disturbing thing to me is the defense. But I do think there's talent to overcome that. I don't know what the next thing is to do. Cora talks about it all the time. Got to play better defense. Got to play better fundamentally. Have to execute better. When that happens, I think the young kids are very good in that area. I know Roman Anthony made an error in right field right away. Opening night, people are like, "Oh, here we go again." He's actually been incredibly solid since then, wherever the Red Sox have played him. Meyer's been terrific at third. I think he's going to move to second base when Bregman comes back, and that's a pretty good infield. First base is always going to be first base, but you put Meyer at second, Story at short, who really has done a nice job, and Bregman back at third, you're going to shore yourself up defensively. But the outfield, to me, was supposed to be 3 Gold Glove candidates. And Abreu's made errors and Duran's made errors. He's had a kind of a funky year in left field. Rafael has been really good in center field. And I hope the Red Sox just leave him there. and don't think about moving him to the infield anymore. The kid is magical defensively in center field. He's a Gold Glover waiting to happen. So leave him there and let the
No,
kid.
he is smooth.
He is.
Yeah, he's Bradley Smooth.
He is. Yeah, very much. Yeah, good
And,
call on that. He's Jackie Bradley. Yeah.
The Duran play the other night when he came running in, and I really liked Middlebrooks's commentary that it was the left fielder's call to verbalize that he was coming in. It was really well described. And
Yep.
Middlebrooks, as a third baseman, knows exactly what he's talking about because he's
Yeah.
going out, and then the error being charged to him initially,
Yeah.
the third baseman,
Yeah.
and then
And reversed it.
reversed it.
Yeah.
It was a very interesting whole set of circumstances, but you're
Yeah.
right. I think Duran's been shaky.
He's had an interesting year out there. He's made more errors than he made last year. We thought he was, and look, I still think he's an outstanding defender. He can get to any ball, but it's weird that he's dropped a few this year, and he can play center field too, and that's great. I still think the outfield should be a plus for this team moving forward, and I don't know what the future of Jarren Duran is. I don't know if he's going to be traded or not. There were all sorts of stories about the Padres being very interested in him several weeks ago. Maybe they still are. They need outfield help. But the Red Sox have other options out there in the outfield, which is good. You can play Rob Refsnyder a lot.
Yeah.
Rob's a really good outfielder, and I think he can play every day if they need him to do that. There are other options out there.
This is a kind of a critical time for this Red Sox team because now that the NBA Finals are done, Stanley Cup Finals are done. We're a good month, 5 weeks away from the NFL camps reporting, and they're going to be under the microscope every single night. And some people that were casual observers are going to become regular observers of this club in the next 5 weeks. I think it's a critical time for them.
I definitely agree, Bob. And for a place in the market, the interesting thing is there was a lot of hope about this team at the beginning of the year that they were going to turn the page on what's happened the last several years, be a good baseball team again. And the hope on the NESN side of things led to higher ratings. And the ratings have maintained, which is an indicator that people are still hopeful. Now, performances like last night don't help, but still hopeful that they can maybe get into postseason play and be a wild card. 2 days ago, if the season had ended, the Red Sox would have been in the playoffs. I know we're not just talking about wild cards. We're used to winning championships around here. I get that, but that would have been a nice leap forward for this team. It still might, but I think you're right. People are invested. It's such a huge part of their summer, the Red Sox, and what the Red Sox mean, not just to Boston, but to all 6 states. And people are watching, tuning in, making their plans to come to the ballpark. They've got a golden opportunity here if they can play better baseball. If you come out of this West Coast swing with a winning record, that's an accomplishment. I don't care what anybody says. That's a big deal at this point in the season. So it might be a baby step in some people's minds, but I think if they can do that, they can move on from the Devers thing a lot quicker than if they drop these next couple of games or get swept here in Anaheim.
Yeah, no, I guess a lot depends on how well Devers plays for San Francisco now. It's how many, how well he does. How many times can we say why can't we get players like that? But I will only say this, Dave, and just in personal experience, I think the Red Sox have made a bounce back in terms of even every conversations that I've had. It's not all about the Patriots now. It's not all about the Celtics now. More people are. Maybe it's because they're the only team in action at present locally, but it's really more conversation about the Red Sox than there ever has been, at least in the last couple of years. Do you agree, and Mike, about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's true too. I felt that, and I thought, waiting on Roman Anthony, who was the top prospect in all of baseball, contributed to some of that.
Yeah.
So did Marcelo Meyer. But look, we know this is true. The three of us, the whole community wants the Red Sox to do well. We want that to be part of the identity of this city. When you're winning championships and in the playoffs and making deep runs with exciting players, that's community pride. And we love that. And it's unique in many ways, the way the Red Sox are treated in our community and how important they are. We were in San Francisco the other night. The Red Sox won the first game. I was walking out of the park with 40,000 people. They were the happiest people in the world. They were absolutely floating. And I'm looking around like, wait a minute, your team just got beat. And it doesn't feel that way when you leave Fenway on a Friday night and you've lost the game. So at the end of the day, we're very lucky in that regard. And the fans are I think, excited about the possibility of the team getting better and improving. And it's still there inherent with the ratings. And it's a testimony of what the Red Sox mean to Boston and New England.
Hey, let me get this plug in here for our good friend George Gray. Who's a big fan of yours, by the way, Dave. Hey, if you're thinking about a new vehicle, go where Lobel and Lynch go. Go see our good friend George Gray at George Gray's Lexington Toyota. We've been customers for years because we know that George Gray will treat you right. They're a family-owned and operated dealership that we trust, and you can trust as well. Go see the great George Gray, the big wheel we call him, at George Gray's Lexington Toyota, 409 Mass Ave in Lexington. I know George would want to ask this question here. Speaking about futures, what about the manager? Does the manager still want to be here? Does he want to become a general manager? Does he want to become something more than what his role is now? Does he want to go someplace else? I think he's had it.
Yeah, those are all great. I think they're two different questions though. Does he want to stay and manage? Yeah, I mean, look at that guy last night getting thrown out for the second straight game. He's got a fire in his belly to do it. I do believe that's true. I think he's been very, very frustrated by the defensive lapses and how poor the Red Sox have played defense. They've been a bad defensive team for 3 years. I think that galls him. Red Sox have been through multiple infield instructors. Nothing's changed very much at this point. So I think the fire's still there for him. Does he want to be a general manager? You bet he does. He absolutely sees that as the next step in his career. Whether it's Boston or someplace else, I guarantee you're going to see him there, because it's not that he's stopped wanting to win in uniform, but he really has an incredible belief that the way he evaluates talent is the right way to do it, the way to run an organization is. He's an extremely bright guy. I wouldn't put anything past him there. And I think that is absolutely his next step for Alex Cora. Yeah.
Lynch, he does hold, if they kept major league records for one at bat in terms of pitches, he hit like 16 pitches from, I don't know who it was.
It was Matt Clement, Bob,
Yeah.
and it was at Dodger Stadium. It was actually
Yep.
18 pitches, and
18.
he hit a home run on the 18th.
Yeah.
And the only reason I really remember it is because I called that.
No way.
At Dodger Stadium that
No
night
way.
on the 18th, hits it out of the ballpark. And
I know he did. I know. I didn't realize it was 18 pitches, but
yeah,
that's amazing.
I had the game with Joe Morgan, the late Joe
That's
Morgan.
so amazing.
Yeah, happened to have that, and it's still the greatest at bat that I've ever seen. It does tell you something about Alex Cora.
I was going to say, very, very little, never really talked about, but I was just, I can't believe you did the call.
I had that on, it was on ESPN. It was late night on the West Coast.
I heard the Dodger broadcast was with Scully.
You heard the Dodger broadcast? So Vervin, it was like, here comes number 18 on the way, and a swing and a drive, and little Alex Cora has broken. Yeah, it's like,
Good one. Oh my God.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Other than Fenway, favorite ballpark to visit and call a game?
Boy, great question. We were just in San Francisco, Lynchy, and if no one's been, we said this on the air, if you haven't been there, go. Find a way to get out to San Francisco, make it some wine country while you're up there, but see a ball game and make it a day game. And we were just talking about Dodger Stadium. To me, it's frozen in time. It's the San Gabriel Mountains are there, and you've got the palm trees and 50,000 people, and the ballpark is locked in the late 60s, early 70s, but it's in incredible shape. It's easy to say the ballparks where it's always 75 and sunny, but that's certainly one of them. And you hear, as you're walking in, you hear Vince Scully's amazing voice, welcoming you to the ballpark. There's nothing like it. So.
Except for the elevator. You got to
elevator, yeah, all day.
If you went there at the top, and you got to take the elevator down.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah, you need a day and a half for that one, but it's a great. And I'm still very partial to Camden Yards in Baltimore too. I think that's we go a couple times a year. It never loses its specialness for me. It's just beautiful.
Most underrated ballpark. What is it?
Yeah, we were just in Seattle. I think that ballpark for a lot of New Englanders is like What are you talking about? But that's gorgeous. Great setting and right in the middle of downtown, but you can see the mountains and all of that. I think they did a wonderful job on that ballpark. And I love going to Pittsburgh. The relatively new ballpark in Pittsburgh, and you're up there and you're looking across the bridge over the river, and the fans just flood across the Roberto Clemente Bridge, which is in bright yellow, and it's just awesome to see that too. And they did a great job on that place.
I tell you, Dave, I would love. You've had a fantastic career, and I would have loved to have been able to do play-by-play, but unfortunately stuck behind a desk.
Thank God for the rest of us. Yeah, thank God you were. Yeah.
Well, you say that, but I would have loved doing play-by-play. My big moment was calling a Babe Ruth World Series in Pueblo, Colorado. So I was just saying, play-by-play was almost my first love, and it was like being an artist because you'd paint something and then you'd erase it, and you'd repaint it and erase it, and repaint it and erase it.
Yeah.
It was constantly that during the game. It was
a
magical thing. But don't remember what we talked about. The Red Sox curse was winning, not the fact that they're not. The curse of the Bambino has been replaced by the curse of winning 4 championships.
Bob,
and now all the expectations that have gone along with it.
There we go. Bob and I had this discussion, great chat the other day, and Bob brought that up, and I'm like, I'm starting to look at that. I was like everybody else, broken heart. Oh, we win. And then we win 3 years later, and then we win in 13, and this is all we do now is win championships. And since then, it's been a different animal. So he's got me thinking about this. So
you did a great job today, Dave. Even Bridget Bardot was the top of the pick.
Top of my list. Yeah.
That was awesome. Bridget Bardot, that came out of left field. That really did.
Well, now you're thinking about that. You're like, yeah, I'm going to reconsider my choice too. So I get dibs. What a treat to be with both of you. I can't tell you how honored I am, and thanks for having me on. But I grew up with you guys, and I grew up learning sports from you guys. So from the bottom of my heart, and everybody connected with me and my family, thank you so much to both.
Well, you're living my dream, okay?
Yeah.
I'm living mine. I know that. It's what I always wanted to do, and just consider myself the luckiest guy, man. Never thought I would get a chance to call Red Sox games on radio and TV, let alone championships and World Series. It's mind-boggling, but in such a great way.
And let alone Alex Cora's 18 pitch at bat, and let alone David Ortiz's home run, and let alone McGuire and Sammy Sosa or whoever it was.
Don't forget Mike Atwood, Don Gillis' grandson.
Mike Atwood, got it right here. Don Gillis is going to make air tonight, and I hope maybe I'll give it till the second inning and see how things start out. So
awesome. Thanks.
Great job, Dave. Thank you so much. Enjoy.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Mike. Thank you very much.
I guess make sure you follow us on UnAnchoredBoston.com.